Hello, happy Friday. Well, I was just on Facebook and I came across this disturbing story. And so I thought I'd come in and kind of make some comments about it. I think I should maybe, I want to add something to the conversation. I was reading this article about the situation in Atlanta, Georgia with HIV. It disturbs me because, I mean, I'm an African American gay person, and it seems to be that's primarily what the problem is there, or is being very heavily impacted there. As I've said a dozen times, and I'm positive. So I'm very interested in this situation they're having there. So what I want to do is I want to play this little clip. They have a 3 minute audio clip. So I want to play that as best if I can work out how to do it, and then I'm going to make a couple comments. I'm going to add something to the conversation. So please stand by. Hold on for a minute here. Let me figure it out. And okay, so here's the clip. The heading was half of Atlanta's newly diagnosed HIV patients have AIDS. Gritty test finds. Okay, so they have a little video clip. I could read it, but I'm not reading anything great. So here it is.
Care and healthcare is quite a bit different than
Oh, that's in the middle. Started
During a
right.
routine testing program in 2013, Grady Hospital has diagnosed an average of 2 or 3 patients with HIV every single day.
This is something that keeps me awake at night in Atlanta.
Dr. Abigail Hankenway runs Grady's HIV testing program. It's the only emergency department in the city that offers an HIV test to every patient, regardless of why they came in.
When we diagnose patients with HIV, the first time we are telling them that they've been infected. We know that among our patients at Grady, nearly half of them, they have AIDS the day we diagnose them.
There are at least 50 places you can go to get tested for HIV in the Atlanta area.
Despite that, there are patients who aren't going to get those tests, and they're not going for a decade.
It takes about 8 to 10 years for untreated HIV to advance to clinical AIDS. Across Georgia, about a third of the people who find out they're positive fall into this category of late diagnosis.
Diagnosing people to get them on treatment is our best method to prevent further transmission.
Wendy Armstrong is the director of the Ponce de Leon Center, a massive AIDS care facility in Atlanta. She says effective treatment can make the risk of HIV transmission almost non-existent. But nationally, an estimated 14% of people with HIV/AIDS do not know they're infected.
Our massive group out there who are not tested are folks who often don't have primary care physicians because they're young and there's not a need for that, or they have no insurance if they did wish to have a primary care physician.
There are plenty of other reasons people don't get tested. Experts say stigma, extreme poverty, fear of a positive diagnosis, transportation even. People might not think they're at risk because they're in a monogamous relationship. For all these reasons and more, in 2006, the CDC recommended routine HIV testing. That means offer the test anywhere people get healthcare. Almost a decade later, Grady's emergency department is the only one in Atlanta to follow that recommendation. The funding comes from pharmaceutical giant Gilead. Georgia's Department of Public Health relies mostly on federal money to combat HIV.
The needs for funding of healthcare in general are not keeping up with the demands that the various diseases that we're facing are placing upon society.
Dr. Pat O'Neill is the director of health protection at the state health department. He says when it comes to state money, really no agency gets what they need or ask for.
We're competing with all the issues that Georgia has, for example, with education, for the same pie of funds that the education community does.
O'Neill's been practicing medicine long enough to see HIV diagnoses go from a death sentence to a treatable condition, so he's hopeful. But others say the pace of progress in Georgia is glacial.
We shouldn't even be talking about AIDS anymore these days, and yet we still are.
Dazon Dixon Diallo is the president of Sister Love, a community-based AIDS treatment and advocacy group in Atlanta.
It's not acceptable to have a zero line item in the state budget for HIV/AIDS prevention. It's unacceptable to not have expanded Medicaid to include HIV testing. It's not acceptable to have any health department in the state of Georgia that's currently not trained, equipped, and implementing rapid testing. You want me to go on?
Okay, I'll stop it there. All right, so what I want to add to the situation is I believe this is part of the reason why the non-disclosure laws in Georgia have to change. I believe, I see it like this. The moment you test HIV positive in Atlanta, Georgia, you are potentially signing your own death warrant. Not death, but prison. Because what you're saying is, because one thing all the cases have in common that people have been arrested and put away from years and years and years for not non-disclosure. The primary thing they have in common is the person knew they were HIV positive. This is the key thing. Because they knew that they were positive, they were then they could then be charged with a crime. So now think to yourself, if a person who is sexually active, drinks sometimes, get a little high on weed, whatever, they're not always in on their best behavior. If they know that after they test positive, from that point on, for the rest of their life, if they slip up in any way or have sex in any way that's not meeting perfect guidelines, or if they have a relationship that goes sour and the person decides to press charges on them, they could be sent away to prison for many, many, many years. So my thing is this. Of course, a lot of people, not everybody's going to think this way, but a lot of people are not going to be tested for HIV. It's like the worst thing that could happen, because if they have sex with somebody and they forgot to wear the rubber broke, the other person was not interested in the rubber, whatever. As long as they didn't know, they're not liable for anything. When they're charged, the key point that the judges make is that they knowingly passed HIV. So I think criminalizing sex or criminalizing this disease is wrong. I know people are not going to like what I say. So it don't make any difference. I want to voices because almost like an epiphany. I get that. I didn't even realize until very recently that they even had such laws, and apparently not only in that state, but since the system is not working in that state, we have to question everything, anything. What are we doing wrong here? And so my thing is this: don't make it illegal. Don't make it illegal. Encourage people to test. Get them on the medication. Get them taking PrEP if they're not positive. Do everything in our power to have everybody tested, and if they are positive, non-detectable, undetectable viral load. You're on PrEP, they're undetectable, and you got a rubber in between there. It's damn near impossible for AIDS to get through all that. So I just wanted to add this to the conversation. I know it may not be right. I'm certainly no doctor or no person who studies these things in depthly. But for me, if I was a sexual being, it doesn't seem like it'd be a good idea to test positive in Georgia. Not when they're talking 15, 20, and 30 years. It doesn't seem like the right thing. So I think the method is wrong. I think it's off. And I think you should take a look at it. Have a good Friday, people. I do love you. Okay, now all I got to do is figure out how to turn this baby off.